And now I'd like to introduce Ashish Thakkar. So Ashish Thakkar is the executive chairman of Mara Sokoni, the founder of Mara Group and Mara Foundation. Ashish has driven the growth of the Mara Group from a small IT business in Uganda to the globally recognized multi-sector investment group that exists today. Through its investments, Mara Group now employs over 11,000 people across 25 African countries in sectors spanning technology, banking, real estate, and infrastructure. Ashish serves as the chair of the United Nations Foundation Global Entrepreneurship Council and is the author of The Lion Awakes, Adventures in Africa's Economic Miracle. So join me in welcoming Ashish to the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you so much to the organizers. This is such a phenomenal gathering, so hats off to you guys. This is brilliant. I'll give you a quick background, and to some of you, I apologize, it may be a little repetitive, but I'll keep it short and sweet about who we are and my personal journey. My family moved to Uganda in 1890, looking for trading opportunities. Similarly, my mother's family moved from India to Tanzania in 1920. My parents got married. They lived in Kenya, Rwanda, and then back to Uganda. And then in 1972, the unfortunate incident of Idi Amin happened. So we got kicked out of Uganda and we moved to England. We'd lost everything as a family. So my parents, my father worked in the Ford factory in England. My mother worked in the Walker's Crisp factory in England. They built up a little bit of capital, set up a small business, built some more capital, and bought a small home. And to steal Charles's words, and then a few years ago, I was born. We then moved. My parents were really missing Africa. They were missing home. So we sold our home and business in England, and we moved to Rwanda. 9 months later, unfortunately, the genocide broke out. My parents, my sister, and I were refugees for 35 of the 100 days of the genocide. We were at home for 9 days, and then we were taken to Hotel de Mille Collines, which is famously known as Hotel Rwanda. How many of you have seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? So my parents, my sister, and I were there for about 8-9 days, then taken to École Française, and then from there to the airport. From there, evacuated to Bujumbura in Burundi, but obviously Burundi had the same issue. So cutting a long story short, we came out luckily alive, but unfortunately everything we built from 72 to 93 we lost in 94 again. So we moved back to Uganda as a full circle, and that's when I felt like I wanted to and needed to do something to support the family. I could see that relatives and family friends were keeping a distance from my parents, scared that if they come too close, maybe my parents may ask for a favor. So that's what really triggered it for me. So I am the worst advocate for education because I quit school at the age of 15. I took a $5,000 loan from 3 people and set up a little IT business, buying goods in Dubai and selling them in Uganda. Realized, and this is in 1996, I realized that everybody across the continent is trying to do the same thing, and the challenge all of us were facing at that time particularly was none of us were getting credit as an African business. So moved to Dubai and started doing this across the continent. Got really good experience in 96 traveling across our continent from Nigeria to Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, DRC, Ethiopia, Zambia, Mozambique, Malawi, South Africa. And realized very quickly that all of our countries are so unique. We're so different. We've all got our own histories and cultures and politics and parliaments. So how do you truly operate in a local manner, but with global standards? And that became the Mara model. So to fast track it to today, we have physical presence across 25 countries and really focused on 4 core sectors, which is banking, real estate, energy, and technology. In August this year, Mara turns 20 years old, so it's a big deal for me and the organization as a whole. And as cheesy as it sounds, I genuinely feel that the last 20 years have just been preparing us for what's going to come next, which I'm really excited about. I think the theme of unite, innovate, and disrupt is so apt. It's so apt. thinking different is crucial. I think what Kanye and Charles have both articulated is that they've been so phenomenal in their own journeys, thinking truly different. I mean, mobile money has been amazing for our continent. The fact that 42% of Kenya's GDP is pumped through mobile money just shows the kind of impact it can have. And guys, we have 150 million smartphones on the continent today. In the next few years, that's going to be 700 million smartphones. That change is going to be amazing. When Bob Diamond and I partnered and set up Atlas Mara, that was one of our key thought processes, that mobile money has been amazing, but it's been telecom operator-led. How do we switch mobile money into mobile banking and make it financial institution-led? And that became that drive. And I think the potential in all of this is absolutely huge. And I think Charles touched on this, but partnering with people similar to you doesn't work. And we've been a big philosophy, our philosophy as Mara has always been that combining the best of global with the best of local is the perfect winning combination. There are so many global organizations who have economies of scale and learnings and experiences in markets globally. And when you have the local depth and the local know-how, you can truly create that winning combination of global and local. And when we set up the Mara Foundation 7 years ago, which the core focus has been Mara Mentor, today Mara Mentor is touching about 850,000 entrepreneurs across the continent. And now I'm really pleased that typically we're used to global initiatives coming to our continent. But this is one initiative that the UNF's Global Entrepreneurs Council has decided to take the mentorship program global. So it's an African initiative truly going global, which I'm very excited about. And I think in business and when you're doing philanthropic stuff, but even when you're doing entrepreneurial stuff, and more importantly, when you're doing entrepreneurial stuff, if you genuinely do good, you will do well. The general phenomena has been that once you do well, then, we'll figure out how to do good. The problem is people do well and forget to do good sometimes. So I have a firm philosophy. I'm all about the energies that if you genuinely do good, you will do well. And I think that's absolutely crucial. And CSR and all these things are really important. But when you're giving, mean it. Do it because you really want to and you genuinely want to make that difference. And I've been lucky that in my journey I've had my spiritual leader, Morari Bapu, whose teaching has been truth, love, and compassion. And I think that's been a massive experience for me. And I've always said that, success should never be measured by wealth. Don't ever get inspired or driven that success is equals to wealth. Success should be measured by the number of lives we're able to change and the difference we are making in our world. And I think, guys, to be perfectly honest, we are only answerable to ourselves. We're not answerable to anyone else, and don't feel the need that you need to be answerable to anyone else. We have to write and tell our own story. We've seen this in too many instances. I've spoken about this before, but Nigeria is a classic example where we had a peaceful, free, and fair democratic election. And guess what? The world didn't talk about it. Do you know why? Because it was peaceful, free, and fair. Rwanda is another classic case as well, where people keep on telling our government and our president how he should be he should step down, or he should do this, and he should follow Singapore's example, or this example, or that example. I was a refugee during that genocide. I saw what that country went through. I lived through what that country went through. And our people of that country have spoken that they want him to stay. He needs to stay. Why are we getting benchmarked against other countries who don't have the same relevance? And I mean, I can give you tons of examples, but people say Lee Kuan Yew is a perfect example and, we should follow that and become the father of the nation rather than president. He was in power for 27 years before he became the father of the nation. Franklin D. Roosevelt stood 4 terms because it was needed for the country at the time. It's needed for our country, and we will do what's best for our country and our continent. I mean, I'm not even going to, I can go on about this all day, but, Ebola is another classic case where we all know that it's misunderstood. But you know what's fundamentally crucial is that we really sit back and think about how are our lives being valued? Are our lives being valued according to GDP per capita? Kenya sent troops to Somalia to fight global terrorism. As a result, one of our malls in Kenya, the Westgate Mall, got attacked. And what happened immediately, the Western world immediately put up travel bans and travel alerts to not go there. When a similar incident happened in France, the whole world flew there, stood in solidarity, and walked the streets together. Why? Why not in our country? And I think that's where we need to change the narrative in general. We need to change the narrative about our continent. We need to change the narrative about how we do business. People talk about bringing Silicon Valley to Africa, and I love the theme, and creating like the local Silicon Valley camps across our continent. And as long as it's not a real estate strategy, and it genuinely is a tech strategy, it's fantastic. I love it. But I'm more excited and psyched about how we can take Africa to Silicon Valley. How can we take Africa global? And I think that's going to be the bigger push. It was talked about, we've got to dream big. This is our time. We've got to dream big. We've got to start small. Let's go step at a time. We need to get there. And challenges were there yesterday, and believe me, they were. Challenges are there today. And challenges will be there tomorrow. I mean, some of you know I'm flying into space. I'm Africa's second astronaut. And a week ago, we actually just unveiled our new spaceship in Mojave Desert. And 18 months ago, when we did our final test of that spaceship, one of our pilots actually died. We had a crash. But 18 months later, we're able to test that spaceship again. And once that happens, the cost of putting satellites in space is going to go down. The way point-to-point travel is going to happen is going to change. So dreaming big, starting small, but staying at it is absolutely crucial. No pressure, guys, but you are our future. This is our time. We've got to make that difference. And just to sum up before I start the Q&A, someone a few days ago asked me, they said, when you think about Africa, do you think about the glass half empty or half full? So, and I wasn't in a fantastic mood at the time, so I kind of said to him, I said, if I say half empty, you're going to try and empty it even quicker. If I tell you half full, it's not like you're going to help me fill it. So I don't really care whether it's half empty or half full, but what I do care about and what I know is that we will fill it, overflow it, and take it to the next level. God bless. I'm going to take 2 questions. Yes.
Ashish, thank you. I am so inspired. We have elections in Kenya next year. Will you run for president, please?
I'm too uneducated, unfortunately. But thank you.
Hello, Mr. Ashish. I just finished reading the book, and I think that was amazing. A lot of time, we see people inspiring like you are, and we don't really know the story, and we just see the glamorous things that the media write about. But in your book, you talked a lot about the struggle you have gone through and what you have done to be where you are. So I really appreciate the time you took to write the book. My question is about Mara Sokoni. So I was reading the Wall Street Journal about the blog that they put out. They mentioned that one of the mission about Mara Sokoni is not only bringing the West to Africa, but also taking Africa to the West. So if you have a few seconds to explain that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I think, you touched on the book, which is The Lion Awakes. And, the whole purpose of that was to really explain and give people the idea of the perception versus reality of doing business and investing in Africa. So I'm glad you read it. Mara Sokoni is our e-commerce business. marashopping.com, which is the actual platform, is we're creating the true marketplace for Africa. And exactly as you said, we want to enable global brands to come and sell locally. But very importantly, we want to help our local brands sell nationally, regionally, and globally. The big challenge by creating a marketplace is last mile logistics. Fulfillment is always an issue. And as a result, we've created something called Mara Express, which is our last mile logistics business. It's run by Charles Brewer, who is the guy who was running DHL across Africa. So it's a true marketplace with last mile logistics to ensure that we can actually do the end-to-end. So we'll take the last question, please.
Thank you. I think everybody's just curious about acquiring seed money. A lot of investors, they want to know what point in time, what happened if we're talking about Zuckerberg or Bezos. So my question to you specifically is, how did you form your relationship with Bob Diamond, the former Barclays executive and banker? That way everyone can learn the trades, the tricks.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think, Bob and I actually met at the World Economic Forum in Africa a few years ago, and his sheer passion for Africa, but also him being a legend in financial services globally, and Mara's really deep understanding of how to do business on the continent and having that geographical spread, I think created that combination. But I think the way we got to that, and we've created a partnership now with GE across Africa, we're taking our real estate company public, which is a similar kind of model where bringing in the best of global but combining it with local is the crucial thing. And I think the way we've been able to do that is, frankly, with the track record that we've built over the years that we've been functioning and operating across the continent. It was 17 years that we had been doing business across Africa before we got into that partnership. And I think just staying at it, and that's why I think it's really important not to look for the shortcuts, but actually just, there will be so many opportunities to cut corners, but don't. Entrepreneurship is a journey. It's not a destination. Thank you so much. Thank you.